One thing I'm always on the lookout for is um, good quality paints and supplies that I can pick up for a good price. And I really think it's just about reducing costs, and especially where I paint quite thick, I need a source of paint that is very reasonable. And one of those sources is RGH Artist Paints. And here I'm using paint out of a jar, and I actually find the jars very convenient. You notice here that they don't have the jar doesn't have a lip on it. That means I can scoop down in with a palette knife or a paint scraper and very easily pull out that paint and leave, especially with the paint scraper that you can buy from a hardware store. You can get a very flat surface so that you don't have a lot of surface area after you pull the paint out. So, it'll dry oddly. And it'll tend not to dry as fast if you keep the top of that paint surface very flat. Now you can see here I'm painting on a stretch canvas. And when I use stretch canvas, I use a number 10 canvas from Allen's Canvas out of Texas. And I bought a roll a long time ago. I buy the big roll, and it's lasts for years and years. So it's a great, great canvas. You gesso it up with some acrylic gesso that I buy it hopefully on sale somewhere, or with a coupon or something, and then I paint on it. It's a nice cheap alternative. Another tip I picked up from fellow painter Mark Robinson is putting my brushes in mineral oil, not mineral spirits. I put my brushes in a tall jar of mineral oil, and I just leave them in there. Sometimes they're not very clean, actually, and they will just stay fresh and ready to paint the next time I need them. Fellow artist Robert Britton told me about RGH Artist Paints, and Richard Vogt told me about cheap canvases that I can get from Artist Brand Canvas. And they are quite inexpensive. When you get on their website, be sure to make note of how many canvases you get per price. Because initially I felt that the prices were expensive. Then I noticed that you got 4 or some cases 6 canvases per price. So I found that the prices are quite reasonable, and especially if you're buying in volume. Another way to reduce costs, and I've mentioned this before, showed this before, is I bag up my colors after I paint. This is extremely helpful, especially with my abstracts, to conserve paint, and it's also a handy way to get a lot of nice mixed paint. Now, another supplier is Gamblin, and I couldn't really paint without their G-gel, or just their Gamblin gel. And so I haven't been able to find a good source for inexpensive G-gel, but I do find that if I mix it with other mediums, that it kind of cuts the cost. But I would never do that unless it made the medium I needed. And one of the additives I make is I use number 8 burnt plate oil with the G-gel. Now the plate oil will melt and the G-gel keeps it from melting, so that's why this is what I use when I want a really thick medium to paint into. So you can see it's like taffy. Now another way to conserve the G-gel is to apply it with a roller. A lot of my techniques are from my printmaking days when I worked as a woodcut artist. But using a roller is just a really good way to get a nice smooth layer of medium onto your canvas. So these are some of the ways that I minimize costs, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any other ideas, I hope you'll go to my blog, and I'll keep an ongoing tally of inexpensive places to buy art supplies.